Hello to everyone. My name is Henry Argazinski, and to the relief of a great number of people, I will not be running for mayor of Toronto this time around. So, Olivia Chow, it's all yours. Anyway, the reason for me, coming before you is to talk about some of the current situations, regarding what's happened with the transit system in the city since I left, and I guess not around to look after things, so everything got out of control. But before I get to that point, just wanted to kind of mention my shirt. Normally I wear a standard business or business casual attire, or something casual. So shirts like this really aren't part of what I normally wear. Maybe a Roxy Music T-shirt every now and then. But this was a great shirt. I couldn't resist it, so I got it. But the main reason I got it was that it reminded me of the cover of one of my books, Van Gogh's Cat, and it's a story that is set half in Toronto. Basically, cat with 9 lives. First life living with Van Gogh, and 8 lives later, his final life living with a descendant of Van Gogh, who is an art student living in Toronto. And just so you know, there are descendants of Van Gogh's bloodline that do live in Canada, and I kind of point towards some of who they may be. However, if you're interested in reading, and everyone should be interested in reading, pick up Murder at the Rex, another story based in Toronto. But more than that, my most highly rated book is A Life in the City, based on the early years of the Eaton Center after it first opened, and starring and featuring yours truly here. But one last shameless plug is, in the upcoming weeks, I'll be releasing the Shops on Main Street West Toronto edition. Basically the lost storefronts of the city. It was originally done as part of a program that I call the Shops on Main Street, and it was an interactive streetscape that I launched in 2001. 6 years before Google launched their Street Views, and shame on Google and the quality of those first images from 2007. But because of issues with obtaining a patent and some really weird things that happened, probably because I'm not Google, didn't get a patent, so I dropped the program. But it was featured as the main media promotional outfit for the Super Bowl in Detroit that year, because I went around various cities, across North America, including Detroit, Toronto, Vancouver. I loved taking images out in Vancouver. However, so it did reach some claim and fame, but I unfortunately after a while did drop the program. However, let's talk transit over here. As I said, I leave for a little bit, and what happens? Everything gets out of control. Everyone now, the Eglinton line is finally open, Finch line is finally open, but things really got screwed up. The Finch line, if you look behind me, there's a map from Metro Plan 2000, outlining the future transit routes here in the city. Now, Metro Plan 2000 was a planning stage set up by Metropolitan Toronto. So this is pre-amalgamation, and it also involved a lot of citizen participation, including myself as a 16-year-old student. I sat on one of the councils, and West Toronto, we met in the library in Etobicoke, and all these plans that were coming out, with active involvement with city planners, and basically we came out with a blueprint for how the city was going to look like in the future. And the funny thing is, if you were to Google Metro Plan 2000 right now, it doesn't exist. It's all gone. for all I know, the only thing that's left of Metro Plan 2000 is in a cardboard box here at my house. But anyway, look at the plan behind me. You can see across the top of the city, there's the Finch line. Now, it runs straight across Finch, then goes down towards the airport. Sorry, Humber College, my former alma mater, but it didn't. It wasn't planned originally to go over there to Humber College and Woodward. But the odd thing is, it was planned to go on its own separate right of way. You know, the hydro line that runs north of Finch Avenue, and you know, it was either going to use the same vehicles, you know, such as you know, the Scarborough RT, which was actually higher technology than most people realize it, and or it was going to be streetcars. Well, I'm sorry, light rapid transit, light rail transit on its own right of way. And the speeds were going to be comparable to that of a subway because there wasn't going to be any interaction with street traffic. It was on its own right-of-ways with underpasses, bridges. I mean, it was going to be an actual rapid transit plan. Same thing with the Eglinton line. It was going to run all underground, except maybe out in the West End. Now, did anyone ever notice for the longest time why there was a strip of land on the north side of Eglinton running the length of Etobicoke? Granted, originally it was set up to become part of what was going to be called the Richview Expressway, which would be like a crosstown expressway through the city. Never happened. But then it was left for, you know, the use of transit. Same thing, the same line would have gone through Mississauga on the north side of Mississauga, Burnthorpe Road in Mississauga. There it is again, strip of land, right? For what reason? But over the years, people kind of didn't know what they were doing and wound up selling land off to make some money, you know, for townhomes and things like that. And anyone who's ever used the Kipling Station up top, did anyone ever think about why on the south side of the bus platform there was a walled-off section that was basically had RT tracks there and another platform? That was all intended to be an extension of, you know, the subway line, not the Sherway Gardens, which actually is a good idea, but, you know, basically to run out into Mississauga, you know, to square one. And it just never happened, you know, and everyone kind of, you know, put everything aside, and you know, these plans just never happened as they were supposed to happen, you know. And now, you know, here we go, the Eglinton line. I'm not even going to say how much it cost and how long it took to build, but 50 years ago, right, it was in the works and it should have been built. Finch line was in the works. Nothing but a shepherd subway back then. Sorry, Mel. But and also the Queen line. It wasn't called the Downtown Relief line. It was basically called, you know the Queen subway line. And you can kind of see it. I think if I can move over here, you know, basically. Primarily, a lot of it is the route of the now Ontario line being built, but it's kind of odd that it was already planned 50 years ago. No movement on it, kind of disappeared. People fumbled around, could start to call it the relief line. But Doug Ford, I have a question for you. Why do you end it at exhibition stadium, at the exhibition grounds? You know, you're abandoning basically your home area of Etobicoke there, because that line was intended to go up to, you know, Dundas West Station. It's up Roncesvalles and Dundas West Station. So you're basically abandoning the people that you grew up with. Shame on you. Anyway, that is my little speech for now, and I'll be back online shortly because I want to talk about when I ran for mayor on a pro-development platform. I want to take a look at what was the major projects that were planned at that time, and never built. But look at what happened. The amount of the development that wound up occurring, over the years, far exceeds anything I could have imagined back then. One final thing, one final parting note before I leave you. Now they want to turn the island airport into something that would accommodate regional jets. Well, guess what? 50 years ago, that was in the works as well. The island airport was going to make way for something called Harbor City, which would have been like apartments which kind of would have looked like Moshe Softy's building, out in Expo 67. With linked where various streets were going to go into it, from Spadina and Bathurst and Strawn, and there were going to be canals through there. 60,000 people were going to live there. So what was going to happen to the island airport? Well, they were going to put the island airport with the capacity to handle larger regional jet aircraft south of the Leslie, what was then called the Leslie Street Spit. So in a new area into the lake with landfill, it was going to go there and linked with rapid transit, obviously, to the downtown area. Why in the world have they screwed around for 50 years and are finally getting to that? But they're doing it in the oddest way, messing with an airport which has worked, for fairly well for now. Thank you, Porter. Potentially, the small jets, their flight plan could even interfere with plans for the east waterfront, which makes no sense at all. Should have just gone with the original plans. But we will talk about that at some later point in time. So thank you for listening, everyone. Take care, and I will talk to you later.